It's one of the largest and most influential consulting firms in the world. But how much do you know about what a corporate consultant really does? Two dogged reporters made it their business to find out. And they're talking with Erin Moriarty.
At top universities like Harvard and Cambridge, Massachusetts, there's a fall tradition playing out behind the scenes. Students are back, and so are company recruiters, looking to hire the best and the brightest.
These are prize students.
After Harvard, they want a place to work as prestigious as the university that they went to.
And according to New York Times investigative reporters Walt Bogdanich and Michael Forsythe, on top of many students' lists is a place that may surprise you, McKinsey Company.
What does McKinsey do?
It gives advice, and people are willing to spend a lot of money for it.
Their new book is When McKinsey Comes to Town, the hidden influence of the world's most powerful consulting firm.
They don't disclose their clients. They don't disclose how much money they're getting from them. We're the first people to get inside the black box and actually find out who their clients are and how much they were paying them.
The authors say McKinsey has worked with nearly everyone, from Walt Disney to U.S. Steel, healthcare providers to tobacco companies, the state of Mississippi to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. McKinsey has even worked for CBS's parent company in the past.
Well, it's so big and so powerful and so secret, and it influences the way we live.
Which makes McKinsey, they say, a major force for spreading ideas globally, both good and bad.
In the 90s and 2000s, a lot of people thought globalization was the cat's meow, and people were losing jobs all over America. And McKinsey was beating the drums on this. And they were even putting slides in a cigarette company's presentation on how maybe they should think about offshoring as well. It worked for Company B, why don't you try it?
Founded in 1926 by University of Chicago professor James O. McKinsey, the company has long been known as an efficiency expert.
When you put gas in your car, McKinsey had something to do with that business. When you go into a 7-Eleven to buy some soda, they touched that.
It's a pretty safe bet that if you've heard of a company or a federal agency, that McKinsey is working for them or has worked for them.
Eric Edstrom is a West Point and Oxford grad. Garrison Lovely, a graduate of Cornell. Both worked at McKinsey. They are among the dozens of current and former employees who talk to the authors.
You've both signed NDAs. You're really not supposed to be talking about this, right?
Well, I'm not talking about any specific clients. In my going away letter, in everything we have said today, I've never mentioned a client name.
Before Garrison Lovely became disillusioned, he found the work thrilling.
As a 21-year-old, it's hard to imagine having more of an impact on actual outcomes in the world than working at a consulting firm. Just being in the room and having a good idea and following through on it, you can actually end up having a lot of impact. The flip side of that is that if the organizations you're supporting, the mission is not actually doing good in the world, then those new initiatives and those new ideas can have a really bad effect.
McKinsey sets itself apart from other consultants with a promise that recruits can change the world.
What if we could be the largest private sector catalyst for decarbonization in the world?
And touts its work with fossil fuel companies to reduce their emissions. That's why Edstrom joined the company. But he was outraged to discover how important those same companies are to McKinsey's bottom line.
They serve a lot of clients with really harmful effects. They know exactly what the repercussions are going to be, and then they say, we're going to do it anyway. And that tells you all you need to know about the firm.
Until recently, McKinsey largely avoided public scrutiny of its clients. But last year, it paid a nearly $600 million settlement related to its work with opioid makers, including Purdue Pharma. McKinsey was accused of helping Purdue turbocharge its sales of the powerful painkiller OxyContin after hundreds of thousands died of opioid overdoses across the country. McKinsey apologized and said it stopped working for opioid manufacturers in 2019. It admitted no wrongdoing. The disclosure of McKinsey's work for Purdue set off alarm bells on Capitol Hill.
At the same time, McKinsey was providing secret advice to Purdue to boost opioid sales. The firm was also consulting for the Food and Drug Administration.
A House Oversight Committee majority interim report found that McKinsey had nearly 24 consultants who had worked at both Purdue and the FDA. But at a hearing earlier this year, the company's global managing partner, Bob Sternfels, denied any conflict of interest.
McKinsey did not serve both the FDA and Purdue on opioid-related matters. Our work for the FDA focused on administrative and operational topics, including improvements to organization structure, business processes, and technology.
But California Congresswoman Katie Porter is not persuaded.
Streamline technology solutions, find efficiencies, operationalize. These are all mumbo jumbo to hide the fact that McKinsey was making money off opioids at the same time they were helping the government figure out how to regulate them. If your work for FDA was so important, didn't it have some influence on what they actually did in the world with regard to drug manufacturers?
No, it didn't, Congresswoman.
McKinsey declined our request for an on-camera interview, but in a statement to CBS News, says there are strict policies in place to prevent the sharing of sensitive client information. The firm isn't currently working with the FDA.
And I think most Americans, when they hear that a consulting company is working for a drug company at the same time it's working for their regulator, I think it's just common sense that there's a problem here.
In their book, the authors also focus on McKinsey's past work with Enron, immigration and customs enforcement, as well as Chinese state-run companies.
Could McKinsey take a look at this book and say, you're just cherry picking the clients where things didn't go quite as well, and that they've done so much good?
But it's more than just the bad apples. I think it's structural. And when you have such smart, hardworking people working their hearts out for a client that's a bad actor, that's a real force for bad in the world.
McKinsey, in its statement, says the book fundamentally misrepresents our firm and our work, and that last year the firm instituted a new client selection policy more rigorous than any other in our industry. It no longer represents tobacco companies. The negative attention, though, doesn't seem to have had an impact on business. More than 1 million people applied for jobs at McKinsey last year, and the firm has collected almost $1 billion from the federal government alone since 2006.
Their reputation is such that a lot of people in powerful positions feel that they can't go about their business without McKinsey at their side. And that's why they hire them, and that's why they keep hiring them in spite of a lot of the negative news that's come out about them. After all, they're McKinsey.